Chapter 1. Nature of History. The term history, derived from the Greek word historia, means inquiry, or an account of one's inquiries. The first use of the term is attributed to one of the ancient Greek historians, Herodotus, c. 484 to 425 B.C., who is often held to be the father of history. History means all the things that have happened in the human past. History deals with the past events that had been done by the people who live in the past. History was started after the art of writing system in the past of human being. Uses of history. History helps better understand the present. History is the only significant storehouse of information available for the examination and analysis of how people behaved and acted in the past. History provides a sense of identity. It is only through sense of history that communities define their identity, orient them, and understand their relationships with the past and with other societies. History provides the basic background for other disciplines. Historical knowledge is extremely valuable in the pursuit of other disciplines such as literature, art, philosophy, religion, sociology, political science, anthropology, economics, etc. History teaches critical skills. Gaining skills in sorting through diverse interpretations is also essential to make informed decisions in our day-to-day life. History helps develop tolerance and open-mindedness. History supplies endless source of fascination. Exploring the ways people in distant ages constructed their lives involves a sense of beauty and excitement, and ultimately another perspective on human life and society. 1.2 Sources and methods of historical study. Historians are not creative writers like novelists. The work of historians must be supported by evidence arising from sources. Where there are no sources, there is no history. Sources are key to the study and writing of history. Historians use two main types of sources in the study of history. These are primary and secondary source. Primary sources are surviving traces of the past available to us in the present. Are sources that have direct relation to the event they describe. They are nearer in time and place to the event. Examples of primary sources are manuscripts, handwritten materials, diaries, letters, minutes, court records and administrative files, travel documents, photographs, maps, video and audio-visual materials, and artifacts such as coins, fossils, weapons, utensils, and buildings. Are more reliable than the secondary source. Secondary sources do not have direct relation or nearnesses to the event they describe. Secondary sources are less reliable when compared to primary source. Examples of secondary sources are articles, books, textbooks, biographies, plays, novels. Oral tradition. Oral sources are especially valuable to study and document the history of non-literate societies. Used to fill missing gaps and corroborate written words. People transmit information from one generation to another. It could be taken as both primary and secondary sources. For example, through folk songs and folk sayings. Three, historiography of Ethiopia and the Horn. Historiography means history of historical writing, studying how knowledge of the past, either recent or distant, is obtained and transmitted. Historiography as an intentional attempt to understand and represent descriptions of past events in writing has rather a briefer career throughout the world. The organized study and narration of the past was introduced by ancient Greek historians, notably Herodotus and Thucydides, c. 455–400 BCE. Early historiographical traditions, history emerged as an academic discipline in the second half 19th century, first in Europe and subsequently in other parts of the world including the US. Historiography of Ethiopia and the Horn has changed enormously during the past 100 years in ways that merit fuller treatment than can be afforded here. Ethiopia had also an indigenous tradition of history writing called chronicles. Chronicles in the ancient Ethiopian Guizi tongue first appeared in the 14th century and continue, sometimes in Amharic, into the early 20th. Chronicles incorporate both legends and facts past and contemporary about the monarch's genealogy, upbringing, military exploits, piety, and statesmanship. Historical writing made some departures from the chronicle tradition in the early 20th century. The earliest group of these writers include Alika te Gevermariam, Alika Asme Georges, and Dedera Fasea Georges Abiesg. Later, Negadraces Afork Gevraisis and Gevrhiwat Bakdagn. Unlike chroniclers, these writers dealt with a range of topics from social justice, administrative reform, and economic analysis to history. Unit 2. Peoples and Cultures in Ethiopia and the Horn. 2.1. Human Evolution. There are two different theories about the origin of human beings. The creationist theory, it advocates human beings and all the living and non-living things were created by supernatural force, God/Allah, with all their complete physical character. 2. The scientific theory states that human beings are created through slow and natural process of change or evolution. The globe that had been formed through gradual natural process since about circa/c. 4–5 billion years before present, BP. Archaeological evidences suggest that East African Rift Valley is a cradle of humanity. A fossil named Chorapathecus dated 10 million BP was unearthed in Ankara, in West Harare. Ardipithecus ramidus Kadaba, dated 5.8 to 5.2 million years BP, was discovered in Middle Awash. Ardipithecus ramidus, dated 4.2 million BP, was discovered at Aramis in Afar in 1994. Australopithecus afarnesis, Lucy/Dinkinish, dated c. 3.18 million years BP. Fossil named Australopithecus anamnesis was discovered around Lake Turkana. An ecofact named as Australopithecus garhi means surprise in Afar language, dated to 2.5 million years. The development of the human brain was to be the main feature of the next stage of human evolution, which produced the genus Homo, believed to have emerged 2 to 2.5 million years. Origin of genus Homo. It probably originated about 2.5 million years ago in Africa. Its ancestor may have been Australopithecines afarensis. It had large brain size and small jaws than Australopithecines. Genus Homo divided into 3. Homo habilis. It is derived from Latin terms homo, human being, and habilis, skillful use of hands, dated 1.9 million years BP, has been found in the lower Omo. They are very similar to the living human beings. Homo erectus. Originated in Africa and became the earliest human species to migrate from Africa to northern Asia and Europe. Walking upright, dated 1.6 million years BP. It had smaller brain and large teeth than modern human being. The first human beings to master the use of fire. The fossils discovered in Ethiopia at Lower Omo Basin, Melka Kuncher, Konso Gargula, and Gadeb. Homo sapiens. Knowledgeable human being, dated 400,000 years BP. They are very similar to the living human beings. The period of usage of stone tools is divided into subperiods. Paleolithic, Old Stone Age, from 3.4 million to 11,000 years BP. Peoples learned to make tools and weapons. They discovered fire and painting picture. They began to use language. Peoples learned to live in cave and began to make clothes from animal skin. Mesolithic, Middle Stone Age /11,000 10,000 BP. It was transition between Paleolithic and Neolithic. Neolithic, New Stone Age /10,000 6,000 B.P. People learned to make sharp tools. Domestication of plant and animal began. Sedentary life began. Able to spin and weave. Two, Neolithic Revolution. During the Neolithic period, human beings transformed from mobile to sedentary way of life. This was a radical shift involving changes from hunting and gathering to the domestication of plants and animals. In Ethiopia and the Horn, chiefly in the more elevated and people-cultivated plants including teff, dagusa, nug, ensed, etc. More advances were made in human behavior. Agriculture dominated the economy. Societies appeared, divided into class. People began to organize themselves in community. The discovery of polished axes, ceramics, grinding stones, beads, stone figures and animal remains in sites like Embafakita around Adigrat in Tigray. Stone tools used for cutting grass and grass-like plants, as well as rock paintings of domesticated animals, have been found at Laga Oda rock shelter near Charchar. 2.3. The peopling of the region. 2.3.1. Languages and linguistic processes. Ethiopia and the Horn in general is marked by ethnic and linguistic diversity. There are about 90 languages with 200 dialects in Ethiopia and the Horn. Ethiopia and the Horn have two major language superfamilies. These are Afroasiatic and Nilo-Saharan. Afroasiatic. This superfamily is subdivided into the following families. Cushitic, Linguists divided this language family into 4 branches. Northern, Beja, spoken in northwestern Eritrea bordering the Sudan. Central, Aga includes Awine, Kunful, Kaimant, Hamtanga, and Bilan. Eastern, this includes diversified linguistic groups like Afar, Ale, Arbor, Biso, Burji, Darashi, Dasanek, Hidio, Hadiya, Halaba, Kambata, Konso, Libido, Mosai, Oromo, Saho, Sidama, Somali, Tumbaro, Semai, etc. Southern, represented by Dalo in Kenya and Mbugwa in Tanzania. Semitic, is divided into 2. North, Guizi, Rashida, spoken around Eritrea-Sudanese border, Tigray, spoken in Eritrean lowland, Tigrigna, spoken in highland Eritrea and Tigray. South, is further divided into 2. 1. Transverse, Amharic, Argoba, Harari, Silt, Wolane and Zay. 2. Outer, Gafat, extinct, Gurage and Mesmes, endangered. Omotic, and Philo, Ari, Bambasai, Bana, Baskido, Bench, Buroshinasha, Chara, Dawuro, Dime, Dizzy, Doors, Gamo, Ganza, Gale, Gofa, Hamer, Hozo, Kachamaganjul, Caro, Kaficho, Konta, Korit, Male, Mello, Nei, Oida, Sizo, Shekacho, Sheko, Wuleta, Yem, Zays etc. Among its groups, Omido includes Wuleta and Gamo, while Maingonga is Kaficho. B. Nilo-Saharan, Eniwa, Berta, Gumas, Kasipobalisi, Como, Kunama, Kwama, Kwegu, Mahjong, Mien, Mul, Mercy, Nara, Nuer, Nyangatom, Opo, Shabo, Suri and Uduk. 2.3.2 Settlement patterns. In some areas, settlement was dense and in other areas sparse. Some people inhabited extensive highlands and others the lowlands. Based on historical linguistic and history of inter-peoples relations, environmental, socio-economic, and political processes significantly shaped and reshaped the spatial distribution of peoples in the region. Cushitic and Semitic peoples had inhabited the area between the Red Sea in the east and Blue Nile in the west, from where they dispersed to different directions. Cushitic have evolved to be the largest linguistic group in Ethiopia and the Horn and spread from Sudan to Tanzania. Semitic peoples spread over large area and eventually settled the northern, north-central, northeastern, south-central and eastern parts of Ethiopia and the Horn. Semites are the second majority people next to the Cushites. Except the Shinasha and the South Mau and Walaga, the majority of Omotic peoples have inhabited southwestern Ethiopia along the Omo River basin. In the west, the Nilotes are largely settled along the Ethiopia-Sudanese border, although some of the Shari Nile family inhabited as far as southern Omo. 2.3.3 Economic formations. The domestication of plants and animals gave humanity 2 interdependent modes of life, agriculture and pastoralism. A predominantly pastoral economy has characterized the eastern lowland region since early periods. Pastoral economy, namely the production of camel, goat, and cattle, has been the most common economic practice in Afar, Saho and Somali, Koreo and Borno Oromo. Agriculture had been started and advanced at least since 10,000 years BP by the Cushites, Semites and Omotic groups. The major economic activity of the Omotic has been mixed farming and trade. 2.4 Religion and religious processes. 2.4.1 Indigenous religion. Wake Fana of the Oromo is based on the existence of one supreme being called Waka. Waka's power is manifested through the spirits called Ayana. The major spirits include Abdar/Dach, soil fertility spirit, Atit, women or human and animal fertility spirit, Awai/Tayana, sanctity spirit, Balas, victory spirit, Chato/Dora, wild animals defender, Hijir/Nabi, father and mother's spirit, Yaricha, peace spirit, Kaza, anti-disease spirit. There is also a belief that the dead exist in the form of a ghost called Ekara in the surrounding of his/her abode before death, or his/her cemetery, Hujuba. In the autumn and spring seasons every year at the edge of ever-flowing river and top of mountain respectively, there is Thanksgiving festival called Areka besides New Year, Burbo, right? Among the Hadiya the supreme being is known as Wa, who is believed to exist before everything, Hundama Sancho. The Kambata have Nejita or Aricho Magano/Sky God, and religious officials known as Magnancho. The Gitio called the supreme being, Maginoant had Thanksgiving ceremony called Dorero. The Kanso religion centered on worship of Wak/Wak. The Gajamaga used to call the supreme being Diban, sky god. The Wuleda called God Tosa and spirit Ayana, including Tawawa/Moidalia, father's spirit, Sauna, justice spirit, Wambo, rain spirit, Micho, goat spirit, Nego, sheep spirit, Kucharawa, emergency spirit. 2.4.2 Judaism. Judaism is considered as the expression of the covenant that Yahweh/Jehovah, God, established with the ancient Jewish, Hebrew. It began to be clearly noticed in the 4th century AD, when the Bet Israel, literally, House of Israel, one of the ancient peoples in the region, refused to be converted to Christianity. Other Bet Israel take as their basis the account of return to Ethiopia of Menelik I, who is believed to be the son of King Solomon, r. 974 to 932 BC, of ancient Israel, and Makeda, ancient queen of Saba, Sheba, and considered to be the first Solomonic emperor of Ethiopia. Another group of Jews is said to have been arrived in Ethiopia led by Azonos and Phineas in 6th century AD. Still others are said to have been Jewish immigrants intermarried with the Agaz. The Jews appear to have been isolated from mainstream Jewish for at least a millennium. The Jewish developed and lived for centuries in northern and northwestern Ethiopia. 2.4.3 Christianity. Christianity became state religion in 334 AD during the reign of King Azana, r. 320 to 360, who dropped pre-Christian gods. When Fernados, Kasate Birain or Abba Salama, visited Alexandria, Patriarch at Natwos, 328 to 373, appointed him as the first bishop of Ethiopian Orthodox Church, EOC. Consecration of bishops from Coptic Church in Egypt continued until 1959, when Abun Baslios became the first Ethiopian patriarch. Then expansion of Christianity continued in Zagwe period, 1150 to 1270, and chiefly gained fresh momentum during the early medieval period, 1270 to 1527, when many churches and monasteries were constructed. These churches and monasteries are not merely religious centers, but served through the ages as repositories of ancient manuscripts and precious objects of art. 2.4.4 Islam. When Prophet Muhammad started the teaching of Islam in Mecca in 610 AD, he faced opposition from the Quraysh rulers. Prophet sent some of his early followers, including his daughter Ruqayya and her husband Uthman, as well as the Prophet's future wives Habiba and Salma, to Aksum. The first group of refugees was led by Ja'far Abu Talib. Islam spread to the Horn of Africa not through jihad, but through peaceful ways including trade. Islam was well established in Dalak, Al-Alai, islands on the Red Sea by the beginning of 8th century. It was from these coastal areas that Islam gradually spread among the predominantly pastoral communities of the interior, largely through the agency of preachers and merchants. Port of Zila on western coast of Gulf of Aden served as an important gateway for the introduction of Islam mainly into the present-day Shua, Wallo and Hararg. Unit 3. Politics, Economy and Society in Ethiopia and the Horn to the end of the 13th century. 3.1. Emergence of states. One important factor for the emergence of states was the beginning of sedentary agriculture. Peoples had to descend from mountainsides to build houses near cultivated plots fencing both farming fields and residences, and harvested crops had to be stored and protected from humidity and rodents. Families preferred to live together forming larger communities for better security and to help each other in hard works. State refers to an autonomous political unit having population, defined territory, sovereignty and government with the power to decree and enforce laws. State was the outcome of regular cultural process. Kant. The first states were theocratic states and priests, shaman, maintained the social and religious affairs of their people. As production became market-oriented, the priests were gradually replaced by chiefs, who began collecting regular and compulsory tributes known as protection payments with which they maintained themselves, their supporters chiefly the army, the bureaucracy, and other followers. States gradually developed into powerful kingdoms and even empires with a well-demarcated social structure. 3.2. Ancient states. 3.2.1. North and Northeast. Punt. Punt was the earliest recorded state in Ethiopia and the Horn. The evidence on Punt comes from, accompanied by vivid paintings, tell of a series of naval expeditions, which the Egyptian pharaohs sent to Punt. The best described and illustrated expedition was the one undertaken by the order of the famous Egyptian Queen Hatshepsut, 1490 to 1468 BC, whose expedition is documented at her tomb in Deir el-Bahri. Iron, bronze, asses, foxes, cattle, animals' fur, dyeing and medicinal plants were also exported from Punt to Egypt. Kant. Scholars have not reached agreement as to the exact location of Punt. The varieties of incense and myrrh mentioned in the writings have suggested northern or northeastern Somalia to some scholars, while others are inclined more towards northern Ethiopia because of the reference to gold, ebony, and monkeys. The latter reinforce their guess, arguing that at that early period, Egyptian sailboats might not have been strong enough to pass through the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb into the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean. Considering the two suggestions, still some others argue that it was probably stretched from Swakemur Massawa to Bab el-Mandeb, Gate of Tears, and Cape Guardafui. Loading. Damat and other cultural centers in northern Ethiopia and Eritrea. Located the south of Aksum. It established a very close contact with South Arabia. Its rulers used the title Muqarrab, the political religious title of South Arabia. The inscription of its rulers were written in Sabaean language, South Arabian language, dated 5th century BC. Various gods and goddesses like Al-Mukka, principal god, Astator, Venus god, Nahurun, light god, Shamsi, sun god, and Sin, moon god, were worshipped in the domain of the Domat state and other northern Ethiopian pre-Aksumite cultural centers. There were similar practices in South Arabia at the time. Kant. There were a number of cultural centers in northern Ethiopia. The major ones are: Yeha is located 30 kilometers to the northeast of Aksum and was the oldest of these centers. It probably emerged around 1000 BC. Buildings and stone masonry, as well as still standing temple and inscriptions indicate Yeha's glory. Hawalti Malazzo is situated to southeast of Aksum, where stone tablets that are inscribed in rectangular temple surrounded by a wall decorated with paintings representing herds of cattle have been excavated. Adi Seglameni is located at 10 kilometers southwest of Aksum, from where a stone slab is fetched, and the oldest Ethiopian monumental inscription is discovered. There were also other cultural centers like Adi Gelamo, Adi Grammaton, Adi Kui, Atsbai Dera, Fikia, Hinzat, Sephra, Sanaf, Tikonda, etc. C. The Aksumite state. The nucleus of the Aksumite state was formed around 200 to 100 BC. In its heyday, Aksumite territories extended from the Red Sea coast in the east to the western edge of Ethiopian plateau overlooking the vast Nile Valley in the west, and from the northernmost corner of Eritrea, and possibly as far south as northern parts of Shoa. According to Periplus of Eritrean Sea, Adulis on the western coast of the Red Sea was the major port of Aksum. The long-distance trade routes from Adulis and other posts on the Red Sea coast passed inland through such centers as Kaskas, Kolo, Matara, and even further west across Takaze River. Kant. The major items of export of the Aksumite state consisted mainly of the natural products such as ivory, myrrh, emerald, frankincense, and some spices, gold, rhinoceros horns, hippopotamus hides, tortoise shells, and some curiosity animals like apes. In turn, a number of manufactured products like garments and textiles from Egypt, India, Roman Empire, and Persia, glassware and jewelry from Egypt and other places. The Scales, c. 76 to 89, the then king of Aksum, used to communicate in Greek language, lingua franca of Greco-Roman world. Aksum also had relations with Ceylon, Sri Lanka, and Laodicea, Asia Minor. Kant. Aksumite kings had extensive contacts with the outside world, notably with the South Arabian region, leading to exchange of ideas, material, and spiritual culture. From the 3rd to 7th centuries, Aksumite kings like Aphilas, Endibais, Wazeba, Izana, Bisanas II, etc. minted and issued different kinds of coins in gold, silver, and bronze for both overseas and local transactions. Aksum was one of the 4 great powers of the world, i.e. Roman Empire, Persia, China, and Aksum, at the time. It was a major naval and trading power from the 1st to the 7th centuries. D. Zagwe dynasty. The Zagwe dynasty was founded by the Aju people who served in the Aksumites as government administrator, military leaders. It was founded by Mar-Era, Mar-Atekeli Haymanot, in mid-12th century AD. First it was political center at Adifa Bugna, Lasta, but later it was shifted to Roha, Lalibela. Merotekel Haymanot's successors include Yimurhana Kirstos, Harb, Lalibela, 1160 to 1211, Nuakuda Laab, Yetberek etc. Notwithstanding the debates, the Zagwe dynasty is believed to have ruled from 1150 to 1270. Its territorial limit included in the west up to Lake Tana, in east not clearly known, in the south the whole Wallo, and northern Shua, in the north the whole region of Tigray and Eritrea. The basis of its diplomatic relation was a policy of neutrality. It established close relation with Muslim Arabs. Religious and commercial relation was established with Egypt. The Zagwe and Aksumite had strong interconnection and continuity. Both of them maintained close relation with the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. The Christianity continued to be the state's religion. Ge'ez continued to serve as church and writing language. Both built church from single block of stone. Furthermore, the Zagwe period was a golden age in Ethiopia's paintings, and the translation of some of religious works from Arabic into Ge'ez. That said, Zagwe rulers are best known for the construction of cave, semi-hewn, and monolithic churches. Lalibela wanted to establish the Second Jerusalem, and mitigate, or even avoid difficulties, which Ethiopian Christians encountered in journey to Holy Lands at least once in their lifetime. This was done by constructing churches based on the model of Holy Lands in Israel. The two factors were responsible to the downfall of the Zagwe dynasty. Internal problems of royal succession and oppositions from groups claiming descent from the ancient rulers of Aksum. External, the strong opposition from the region of Tigray and Amhara by, in Tigray the clergy of Aksum and Debre Damo spread anti-Zagwe propaganda, and in 1270 AD Yekuno Amlak from the Amhara region defeated the last ruler of Zagwe Yetabarek at the place of Gaint. Then Yekuno Amlak declared himself, which marked the restoration of the Solomonic dynasty. East, Central, Southern, and Western states. 3.2.2.1 Bizamo, Damat, Anaria, and Gafat. Bizamo was a kingdom located on the southern bend of Abay River just opposite to the present districts of Gojam and around the current Wambara area. It was founded in the 8th century and had early connections with Damat. Damat was strong kingdom that expanded its territories into most of the lands to south of Abay and north of Lake Turkana, as well as west of Awash and east of Didessa. Motalami was a prominent king of Damat in the 13th century. Anaria was a kingdom in the Jibe region in southwestern Ethiopia. The royal clan was Hinari Bashasho, Hinario Biseso. In the 9th century, Aksumite King Dignajan is said to have led a campaign into Anaria, accompanied by Orthodox Christian priests carrying Arks of Covenant, tablets. Anaria kingship was a divine one. Gafat. Historically, the territory of Gafat lies south of Abay, Blue Nile, river adjoining Damat on the southwestern periphery of the Christian kingdom. It was inhabited by Semitic-speaking population related to Adir and the Guraj. It is not clear from available records whether the Gafat formed a state or not, but Gafat Mountains provided a rich source of gold. The province was ruled by the title of Awalamo. 3.2.2.2 Muslim Sultanates. After the spread of Islam since the beginning of the 8th century, viable Muslim communities, and states had been established at many locations, especially along the main trade routes from Xyla, and its many branches penetrating the interior. These states include Adat Shua, Makhzumi Khalid ibn al-Walid, who claimed descent from Mecca, set up Makhzumite Sultanate in 896 AD, 283 AH, on northeastern foothill of Shua. Bidat Fatagar was founded around Minjar, Shankora, and Ada in the 11th century. It was a hilly lowland area with thoroughly cultivated fields of wheat and barley, fruits. C. Dawaro, located south of Fatagar between upper waters of Awash and Wabi Shabelle extending to Charchar in northeast and Jindir in southeast. We have valuable information on Dawaro by an Egyptian courtier Ibn Fad Allah El Amari. It was much smaller than Ifat, but resembled. They have a currency called Hakuna, in which transition takes place. Bali was an extensive kingdom occupying high plateau, separating basins of Shebelle and Rift Valley lakes. Bali was one of the largest of Ethiopia's Muslim provinces. Its economic activity resembles those of other nearby Muslim lands. Trade was mainly based on barter exchanging cattle, sheep, cloth, etc. It had strong army composed of cavalry and infantry. Ifat was a state located in the adjacent to Shewan Sultanate. Its territory ran from northeast southwesterly in the Afar Plain eastward Awash. It was established by Umar Walazma, who claimed descent from Hashemite clan, and came from Arabia between 1271 and 1285. Weakened and annexed the Sultanate of Shua. The Sultanate was fertile and well-watered. Its inhabitants earned their living from cultivation of wheat, sorghum, millet and teff, and animal husbandry. Sugar cane, bananas, variety of fruits, beans, squashes, cucumbers, and cabbage completed the diet. Chat was described for the first time as being consumed as a stimulant. Others, mutually independent states like Arababani, between Hadiyah and Dawaro, by Kulsar, Dara, between Dawaro and Bali, Fadiz, Gadaya, Hargaya, Harla, Quilgara, Cadiz, Sharqa, west of Dawaro and north of Bali and Arsi, and Sim were established and flourished. 3.3. External contacts. Ethiopia and the Horn had contacts with Egypt since at least 3000 BC. Earliest contacts with the Mediterranean world, or the Greco-Roman world. It had very close relations with all commercially active South Arabian kingdoms starting sometimes before 1000 BC. The introduction of Christianity to Aksum established a new pattern of relation between the region and Egypt. Following the introduction of Christianity, Aksum had established close relationship with the East Roman, or Byzantine Empire with shared common commercial interest in the Red Sea area against their rival. In the 7th century, rapid expansion of the Muslim Arabs through the Near and Middle East, North Africa, and the Nile Valley led to the decline of Aksumite land routes and shipping lines. The coming to power of the Mamluk was followed by the reciprocal persecution of religious minorities. Moreover, the Mamluk presented a barrier to the contacts between Christian Ethiopia and European states. However, the tradition to visit Jerusalem and other holy places in the Middle East had begun at the end of the first millennium AD. In order to arrive at holy places, Ethiopian Christian pilgrims used the land route to Egypt. 3.4. Economic formations. A. Agriculture and land tenure system. The mainstay of ancient states' economy in highland areas was plough agriculture. The mastery of the technology of irrigation also contributed to the growth of agricultural production. The people used diverse soil fertility enhancement strategies like compost and spreading residues ashes, as well as fallowing, crop rotation, intercropping and contour plowing. In times of labor shortage, farmers also developed teamwork. The rules according to which members of the society hold, share, and use land constitute what is known as the land tenure system.